How's it going, guys? Welcome back again for some more Tales from Timor. So today we're going to be talking about something a little different. So one of the consequences of teaching abroad and being in a foreign country is the fact that I have a lot of free time. So I need to find ways to fill that free time. And while music is definitely something that takes up a lot of it, it's not the only thing I do. See, an interesting fact about me is that I actually studied English in college. Technically, I was an English education major, but I took a lot of English classes. That's right, I'm a book nerd. So I've been reading a lot of books since I've been over here. If I'm not teaching English, I'm playing music. And if I'm not teaching English or playing music, I'm reading a book. So I want to share some books that I've been reading with you guys. So here it is. Here are 10 books that I have read that I think you guys should be reading as well. These are in no particular order. They're just in the order that I could remember them. So first up on the board, we got The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This book was quite an interesting one to read, if I do say so myself. See, I had studied the Iliad back in college in a classics class, but I have yet to encounter a retelling of a classic tale that enthralls me as much as this book did. Number 2, we got Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Not gonna lie, this book is a long one. Its length is justified because it builds a world that is both relatable and also incredibly expansive and imaginative. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't read about fantasy characters that were this interesting since I read Game of Thrones. Number 3 on the list, we have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. This one was another long one. I'm slowly starting to realize that I have a penchant for long books. This one's an incredibly interesting period piece that takes place during the Napoleonic Wars. And it is incredibly interesting to watch the themes of the story unfold in the interactions between the two characters, despite the fact that those characters are very different, demonstrating the fact that you often need two sides to form one coin. Next up at number 4, we got The Odyssey by Homer. This one was entirely influenced by me reading Song of Achilles. This one, I will confess, was more of an ego read more than anything. Just for clarification, an ego read is a book that you read just to say that you've read the book to flaunt your superiority over others. Like, I had read sections of The Odyssey back in that classics class I was talking about earlier, but I had never read the thing in its entirety. However, as I started to read the whole thing, I got engrossed in the story and the poetry of the whole thing. And it made me realize something very interesting about reading the classics. Oftentimes, when you read the classics, you start to realize why they've lasted as long as they have. Coming up at number 5, we have Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This read was influenced by the fact that I am in love with the Hayao Miyazaki movie Howl's Moving Castle. And for those of you who are looking for a book that is exactly like the movie, this ain't it. I mean, of course there are characters and plot points that are taken from the book that are put into the movie, but overall they're two totally different experiences. And I will say that the book is definitely one of those books that you have to pay attention to when you read it, because there are a lot of things that you can easily miss. Coming in at number 6, we have the Attack on Titan manga by Hajime Isayama. Full disclaimer, I am certain that I am going to butcher some of these authors' names, so don't get angry in the comments at me. And this manga, much like the anime, is quite a fun read because it really keeps you on your toes. There are a lot of twists and turns in this manga that you really feel like you're being taken for a ride. But also, this manga does a great job at elaborating on its themes. Most important of these is the theme of the strong punishing the weak, and the weak needing to stand up and say, we're not gonna take this anymore. Next up, we have Alita Battle Angel by Yukito Kishiro. This one was interesting for me because this was the first manga that I've read that I haven't watched the anime or a movie adaptation of first, which, I don't know, I feel like it made the whole experience a little more authentic. I tore through this manga, and it's such a fun story about finding your place in a world that you're not entirely used to, which is very pertinent to me because I'm in a strange world that I'm not very used to. Next up at number 9, we have The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. Now, Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite writers. Now, I had read this comic series earlier in my life, but I feel like I was missing out on something. And so I wanted to go back and read it again. And I was right. I was definitely missing out on a lot. Because as I'm reading this comic, I'm just struck by how talented of a writer Neil Gaiman really is. I mean, for starters, he's able to turn a children's character into this kind of edgy, gothy person. And he's able to make this all-powerful being rather relatable, while also elaborating on ideas of sleep and dreaming and the importance that those bring and the timelessness of it. And coming in at number 9, we have The Last Ronin by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. So, being a little kid, I absolutely loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I was more enamored with the TV show. And by the time I figured out that they were a comic book, I was in high school and I thought I didn't have time for those childish kind of things. Yeah, high school me sucked. I'm aware. But The Last Ronin really gives a lot of grit to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, I was not expecting this much maturity from a comic based on characters that I hadn't watched since I was 7, 6. And finally, number 10. Number 10's kind of a bit of a cheat, but I'm sure you guys are probably asking yourselves, well, Ben, what are you reading now? To which I will reply, I'm actually reading 2 books right now. See, I usually like to read 2 books at the same time, one being a comic book for my own personal enjoyment, and then 2, a regular book for more serious subjects. Those 2 books that I am reading right now are From Hell by Alan Moore and Notes from the Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Alan Moore is one of my favorite comic book authors. I mean, I love The Watchmen. V for Vendetta might still be my favorite graphic novel of all time. And From Hell is an incredibly interesting take on Jack the Ripper and the murders that surround him. And Notes from the Underground, while dense, is an interesting takedown of determinism and an interesting philosophical rambling about human nature. So there it is. 10, or actually 11 books that I have read or am reading that I think you guys should too. What are some books that you guys think I should be reading? Let me know in the comments below and I'll try to get to them and I'll try to talk about them if I can. So I'm going to go out and encourage you guys to go read a new book, because as the quote goes, the reader is capable of living 1,000 lives. Ate logu, guys. I'll see you next week. Before you close out of the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Also, new Big Sif single came out this week. It was actually inspired by The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. So definitely go check that out. Link will be in the description. Yeah, guys, I'll see you around.